Here's a video of how I made my 8-foot by 2-foot poly stock tank wine barrel pool. I started with an 8-foot diameter by 2-foot poly stock tank. I went poly because it holds up good and I didn't need to get a liner. The next purchase was a Intex C2500 pool pump. The pool pump costs approximately $150, and I went with this one instead of a sand filter because the price, ease of use. It has a timer on it. All you do is plug it in, and it works great. And it came with the hoses and everything you need, even the intake valve and the outer valve. However, I bought a different valve for the intake, which had a better seal, but you don't have to do that. The next thing I used was a 1x4 by 16 foot compost bender board for the base of the wine barrel slats. You need 4 of them. The circumference of an 8-foot pool is 25 foot 0.13 inches. So you need 4 16-footers to make a top and bottom base for your wine barrel slats. The next thing you'll need is 2x4s. So I just got 2 8-footers, and that'll be what you need for your uprights. When you start, just place your stock tank on a level area and then start from there. The first thing I did was put on the intake valve on the bottom of the stock tank pool. I had to drill a 2 9/16 hole circular bit. However, it was a little too small, so I'd go a little bigger than that. I put silicone on both sides of the washer and on round the back washer also. You can't put too much silicone in there to make sure that seal is not going to leak. Instead of using the regular valve to go out into the pool, I bought this waterfall. It was only $19.99, and you don't even have to drill a hole. You just hook up your hose as you see there, clamp it on, and it works wonderful. I cut 8 2x4s for the side to make backing for the wine barrel slats. The tall piece was 19 3/4 inches. The bottom piece, 3 inches at the base. You space 8 of those evenly around the pool, and that seemed to work out great. This is what it looks like once you get the bender board on and you have all your 2x4s on. And that's good enough to start putting on your wine barrel slats. The only problem was wine barrel slats are kind of a pain because they're beveled on all 4 sides. They have a bow in the middle, rounded, and they're made for like a 2-foot diameter or 3-foot diameter. So when you put them on, you can see it was not perfect. You could see right through it, and it didn't look too good. So I used a chop saw, a table saw. I used a drill press to get all of this done, and I'll talk more about that later. Based on the first slats I put in before I realized I had to cut everything so it would fit nicely, decided to get some weed barrier and folded it up and put it around the pool, so if there's any cracks, you don't see the blue and it blends in and you don't even notice it. So what I had to do, I had to cut all 4 sides of the slat. So I started with the center and measured out from the center so I'd have an even bow around a stock tank pool. So I had to cut both ends off, and then when I put them up, as you saw, there was a gap on the sides. The sides are also beveled. After I cut the length of each wine slat, I cut the bevel off of the sides. I had to freehand the one side, and once I had that, I'd run that against the rail and it would cut the other side. I had to adjust each one because they're all different sizes, and there's a total of 126 of those. Once we got all the wine slats cut, we laid them out flat and put them together for which ones fit together best. And some are thinner, some are thicker. So we wanted to control the layout So we did it flat on the ground, and once we had it laid out, I put them in order. Keep in mind that this is oak and it's a hard wood. So I had to drill a pilot hole on each and every one. The first hole I would drill 5.5 inches down from the top, and then the second hole on the bottom would be 2 inches up from the bottom, and drill from the outside in, because if you don't, it'll pop out and give you a dirty hole with splinters. I also found that the oak is so strong, the screws wouldn't set like they normally do in wood. So I had to drill a second hole after the pilot hole, big enough for the reset of the head so it would go in and be flush. Once we got that all figured out, it looked pretty good. Everything fit together well. It was a lot of eyeing this piece or that piece and moving stuff around. But once you got the system down, it worked out well and the finished product looked good. The only challenge I had is the bottom intake valve and hose. I didn't want to have much of this open, so I had the top and bottom 1x4, fit all the way around. I laid the hose like you see it there, and then I put a wine slat sideways as backing, and then I cut the wine slats to fit to make a minimal exposure into the pool. What we did next was get this copper foil sheet roll. It was 50 feet, so it worked pretty good because we didn't need 100% coverage on the back, but it only left a few inches short. And then we got copper nails to put this on. But what I found also, that oak is so hard, we had to drill a pilot hole for the copper nails. So just drill it a little bit smaller than what the nail is, and then they went in good to hold it. It's a little flimsy, but not too bad. So you just put the nails in as you go around to make sure the top edge is in so no one could hit or slide against it. That's what it looks like at the end. It came out very well. I learned a lot while building it. I got the wine barrel slats for free, so that worked out. This is what we originally wanted to do, is to make it look like a wine barrel. I think it came out very nicely. It was a lot of work. I did learn a lot doing it. That's why I've made this video. I hope it helps, and I wish you luck. And here is the final product. We did the walls to match. We called it Papa Carl's watering hole, and I go in there every single day.